It wasn't a great reading month for me. High school kids are nasty. It was ugly. I don't know what happened. This is not fun. I'm not having fun. I don't know. I don't know what happened. And I just did not vibe with that. Gore and death. It's probably time to let this go. Welcome in, spooks, and welcome to a corner of my house you've never seen before, my writing bureau that you've probably never seen before, and a blue wall that you've probably never seen before. I've had my dining room decorated, it's now blue. What do you think? I'm unsure. Anyway, this video is to recap all the books that I read in March. Or all the books I didn't read in March. So first up, from my March TBR game, I got 4 boost cards. So they're actions that I have to do throughout the month just to make my month a bit more exciting. So first up I had Bake Whilst You Read, and it was actually my partner's birthday in March, so I baked for the first time a Victoria sponge. It's his favourite, and I made it with blueberry jam. It was so good. It looked really ugly, but it tasted good. I did that. You're just gonna have to trust me because I did not document it because it was ugly. My next boost card was write in a journal, and I managed to write more towards the end of March. I tried to write maybe 3 times a week in a journal, and I fail miserably most weeks, but this month I tried really hard, and I did write quite a bit towards the end of the month. So next boost card was take your book outside, and it was pretty cold in March. Like, we're starting to see a bit of spring weather, but it was pretty cold, so I didn't really want to go sit outside with my book. But on my TBR game video, Marla Bakes kindly commented that they read it more as you can take your book out of the house on a little adventure. And the amount of times I get caught short waiting for something, or I'm early to something and I end up just sitting reading a book in my car, that's what I did. Pass. Last I had Read at Night, and that's when I do most of my reading, so that one is so easy when it comes up. And yeah, so I completed all of my boost cards in the month. Prompt-wise, I had 4 prompts and I had to read collected ghost stories from my TBR jar. Let's talk stats and then we'll get into it, okay? I don't know what happened in March, but I read 4 books. 2 of which were audiobooks, 2 were physical. I got 70% of the way through a book, so I'll probably finish that in the early days of April. But I didn't finish it in March, so it doesn't count. I listened to 25 hours and 51 minutes for audiobook, and I read 849 pages. My average is 2,000. I honestly don't know what happened in March, but I wasn't reading, that's for sure. But then I felt like I was. I felt like every day I was getting some reading done. And it's not like these were long books. 800 pages is average for 2 books. I don't know what happened. It wasn't even like I was reading fantastic books because my average rating was 3. Not 3.6, 3. 3.0. Let's talk about what I actually read. I'm gonna go from worst to best. So first up, for my TBR jar, I had to read Collected Ghost Stories by M.R. James. And I got, I think maybe over 50% of the way through. And whilst it was okay, I wasn't having a good time. It got to the stage where I was kind of dreading picking it up, but so I just thought it's probably time to let this go. And so I did DNF this. So I didn't rate it, obviously, because I didn't finish it. And the rule is with my TBR jar, it's a read it or unhaul it deal. So if I get a certain way through and decide I don't want to continue, I have to now unhaul it because it's been sitting on my shelf for years and has to go. So this one is being unhauled. For now it sits up here because it looks pretty cute. Coming in at 2 stars is Penance by Eliza Clark. This book I read for the prompt human being on the cover. So it fulfilled the prompt and I completed the challenge, I finished the book, but I really did not enjoy it. And you know what? I feel like I am the exact audience intended for this book. I feel like Eliza was looking for somebody who was in high school, kind of early 2000s, and obsessed with true crime. It's me. I am she. And yet, freaking yet, No, I just could not get with this one. There were a couple of moments where I thought, oh, that's really relatable, which is suspicious because it's murder. But you know what I mean. High school kids are nasty. High school girls? Oh my gosh. You would not believe. What did I write down? Clark's writing is always very relatable, which is crazy as I said, because I found even boy parts was relatable, and that was very dark and twisted. This was also quite dark and twisted, but it had relatable parts. She's also very good at making a very dark situation kind of seem funny. So there were like funny parts, but it's a really dark subject. It's set in the north of England, in what I think is maybe the early 2000s or maybe closer to 2010, and it's kind of surrounding, I would say, the working class. So it is quite literally my childhood, minus the murder. It also has the killing off your Sims characters. That is my childhood. The being queer in high school, being out in high school, not being out in high school, also very relatable. I think the problem for me was the mixed media really slowed the pace down, so it was a bit of a slog to get through. And whilst I do love a true crime podcast, it felt like a really dull true crime podcast. And especially when you've got such an interesting, wild story, to have the outcome be so dull was massively disappointing for me. At one point I thought, oh, when this heats up, this is going to be a 4 or 5 star for me. But it just never quite got there. And then the ending was just, I won't spoil it, so don't panic if you haven't read it, but the ending was just so... I'm not invested. I don't care. Very weird. I just didn't vibe with it. It wasn't really my type of format. I didn't like the interviews with random people, and I know that was the whole point. But yeah, it was a 2-star read for me. Coming in at 3 stars is Cleopatra and Frankenstein by Coco Malors. Now, I've had this on my shelf for a very long time, and I know that Blue Sisters recently came out. It's blowing up at the moment, and I felt like it was a good time to pick this up and actually read it. And whilst it was fine, like the story was okay, I never dreaded picking it up. I was following along. I was kind of invested in the characters. That's it for me, really. It was just, I don't have much else to say other than it was just okay, it was good, and I guess that's reflected in the rating. It's kind of a character study on friendship, on grief, on betrayal, and mental health crises. So it's very jam-packed full of emotion and a little bit of plot, and I don't mind that in a story. I think it has its place in time, and I do think that Coco Malors is a good writer. It was just okay. The only thing I really have to say about the characters especially is that I really didn't like Frank. I really didn't. He had such an ego, and it felt as though all he was looking for was a broken person so that he could be the one to fix them, and I just did not vibe with that. I think that Cleo deserved better. It was a 3-star. I have not much else to say on the matter. The next 2 books were both 3.5 stars. So first up we have Perfectly Preventable Deaths by Deirdre Sullivan. And again, this one was kind of... I was gonna say light. It's definitely not light, that's not true. But it felt like an easy read is what I think I mean when I say light. The subject matter, not light at all, but it's quite simplistic. So it is a little like hedge witchy, which I really enjoyed. It's the side of witchy that I really like. And it's following 2 twin sisters who are very different, and they move in with a new stepfather, and they start to notice that strange things happen in this village that they've moved to. And they both get very caught up in these strange happenings in very different ways. There's a lot of gore and death mentioned. It's not horror, but it's like, it toes the line, I think, which is why I really liked it. And it's basically just about these 2 sisters saving each other in more ways than one. And I'm not going to spoil it by saying anything else, because I think it's so hard to explain what this book is about without ruining it. I went into it so blind. I just bought it. I saw it in Oxfam for $2.99, and just because I really liked the cover, that was it. That was the reason why I bought it, because it was beautiful, and I'm just really glad I did. I then discovered after finishing it that it was the first in a duology, so I am going to be picking up the second book and look forward to reading it. So this is a 3.5 stars. Finally, the last book that I read in March, which was also a 3.5 stars, was Ink Blood Sister Scribe by Emma Tors. And this is a really beautiful edition. I think it's a Lumicrate. It usually is when it looks like this, to be honest. If it's beautiful, I can pretty much guarantee it's going to be a Lumicrate. This one again was a little witchy and also surrounded 2 sisters. A theme was happening this month, obviously. And this book is mainly about blood magic. And what the magic is you can write a spell in a book, and only certain people have this power. And then if you bleed onto the page, the spell is then engaged and live. And as it says right here, not all books should be opened, because then a lot of death happens and it's bad news. but it has got a very big mystery at the heart of this, which I was very intrigued to get to the bottom of. And I found that every character was so real. They felt very genuine. And my favourite character was Nicholas. He was just very dry British humour, which I can fuck with. And it's also got a queer romance at the heart of it. What more could you possibly want? The romance side of things was also such a subplot, which I love. I love when romance is in a book, but it is not the main plot, and I love it even more if it's a queer romance. It's not at the forefront of the story is still well-rounded without the romance being in it. Loved it. Maybe it should have been 4 stars, I don't know, maybe I'm being harsh. I did really enjoy it, and unfortunately it is just a standalone. But if there's anything else by the same author, I would be interested in picking that up. So that's high praise from me. I know I started telling you what prompts I read these for and then immediately forgot to do that. But I said I read Penance for Human Being on the cover. I read Cleopatra and Frankenstein for my wildcard prompt, where I can read anything I want. I read Perfectly Preventable Deaths for my illustrated cover prompt. And you might be thinking, but that's not what you mentioned in your TBR game. And you would be correct, I was meant to read 100 Years of Solitude. And if you've seen my most recent video, which is a book unhaul, yeah. Hated it, really could not get with it. So I know that that's no longer my genre. Maybe it's just like the classic magical realism. I think the magical realism was such a tiny detail to the point where I was at. I think I got to 40% maybe. I really didn't enjoy it. So I did pick this one up instead for the illustrated cover prompt. And then I read Inkblood Sister Scribe for the 400 pages plus prompt. And it was 403, so just got there. The last thing to mention was from my March TBR game, when I did the gameplay, I got £22 to spend on books. 22. I think that's probably the best I've ever got. And so I made a couple of little purchases. I will put the covers on the screen because they're upstairs and I can't be bothered to go and get them. And the books were The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi by Shannon Chakraborty. And I also bought The Scorpion and the Night Blossom by Amelie Wenzhou. So very excited to read both of those. I kind of want to dip more into contemporary fantasy, a little magical. So I'm very excited to pick both those up because I think they are both fantasy. That's where I spent my £22. I completed my March TBR game. It wasn't a great reading month for me. I don't know why. I felt a little bit slumpy, but I think that's because I was reading 100 Years of Solitude straight after Penance, which I really didn't enjoy Penance, and I think I was just like, this is not fun, I'm not having fun, but all good now. We are moving on to another month. My TBR game for April should go live in the next few days, so you will see that soon, and wish me luck. I hope that this month is better. I've had a little bit of a iffy month with the, brain, but yeah, we stay hopeful for a better month next time. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in a video very, very soon. Bye!
Let me show you a place where you gon' wanna move your feet until they start to